Hi, everybody, and good morning. Happy Tuesday morning. It is January 18th, and we're here for my Thursday Abnormal Psych class. So thank you so much for all of you who are on here with me live. I see a lot of you getting logged in, putting your names in the chat, which is perfect. If someone can let me know, can you all hear me and see me? Okay, give me a thumbs up or yes or something like that. That would be fantastic. Perfect. All right, wonderful. It's a smoother start to this week than last week already, right? So that's wonderful. I hope everyone had a nice long weekend. It was nice to have that extra day off yesterday, though that does make it harder to come back today, of course, right? But we had a little bit of rain. Both of my teams won in the wild card playoffs, so I'm very excited about that. I'm again big Brady and the Bucks, and then Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I'm excited that both of them won and they live for another week. I don't know if either of them will make it through next week's games, but very exciting that they both won their games. Oh yeah, all good things. And we're in week number 2. Hard to believe it, but we're already in the second week of the semester. And I haven't received any updates yet as far as, whether or not we're going to remain virtual or go back to in person. And again, I promise as soon as I hear anything, I will be sure to relay that over to all of you. So for now, we will just continue on for the next 2 weeks, planning on being online as we are right now. So this week will be a little bit shorter, which is nice. We don't have nearly as much to cover as last week, where we were going over all of the course components. But my general plan for these sessions now, moving forward, is what I'll do is I'll give you some feedback from last week. So I will tell you a little bit about what I saw in the discussion posts, some areas of improvement, kind of going over the answers really quickly. I'll show you this week how to find your grades and give you a little bit of information about that. Then we will go over the requirements for this week, the discussion, and the things that are due for week number 2. I will give you the Twitch extra credit question as usual, and then I'll see if any of you have questions for me. So remember that this is a wonderful opportunity for you to ask me questions live. Go ahead and put those in the chat. If you have questions at any point, that is your best way to communicate with me. And make sure that you put your first and last name in the chat at some point as well. So again, thank you for being on here. I know that again, this still isn't the preferred choice for many of you, but hopefully again we can always make the best of it. So let's go ahead and go over to Canvas together, and we'll take a look at last week first, and then we'll move to this week. So we, as I said, are in week number 2 as of yesterday morning, but let's go back and look at last week just for a moment here. And I'm going to exit the student view just for a minute so I can bring this up. But last week, you were in charge of completing the mandatory orientation quiz and materials. And I know there was one question on the quiz that wasn't necessarily a good question. My apologies for that. I made the question for a fully online class. So I adjusted it. There was a question that said our class is entirely online with no in-person meetings. I added for the first 3 weeks, but in case that was confusing to any of you, I made sure that nobody was penalized for that question. So I'm sorry if that one was a little off. I made that question prior to our shift in our meeting. So nobody lost points for that question. Just as a side note, a few of you reached out to me about that. But otherwise, last week we were covering, is this a disorder or not? What are those D's of abnormality? How have we viewed mental illness throughout time? I think a really, really interesting chapter. We get to talk about exorcisms and things like that. So for discussion number 1, let's take a quick look at that. Most of you did a really nice job on the first discussion, and I will tell you that I tend to grade the first discussion a little harder, just because I want you to make sure, I want to make sure that you get my my standards and kind of expectations as we move forward. But a lot of you did an amazing job. I had a lot of excellence and great jobs in terms of my comments to you. Really nicely done looking at those individuals and trying to decide whether or not they had a disorder. And so if I pull that up for a minute, I opened it here on my computer. Some of these are completely up for debate, right? So Andrew, I would say, is the one person that I would say definitely has a disorder. And a lot of you nailed this. It's the fact that he has no guilt, doesn't feel bad at all about the things that he is doing. Andrew, and you didn't have to diagnose them, Andrew would definitely have something like antisocial personality disorder, commonly known as like a sociopath or a psychopath, because of that lack of guilt and that troubled like history and acting out. But after Andrew, it gets a little bit more subjective. And that was kind of the point with these. I wanted you to see that it isn't necessarily, this very clear line. I think we tend to have this idea that people have a mental illness or they don't. And in reality, it's often very difficult to tell whether somebody is just struggling temporarily or they have a mental illness, whether someone is, still grieving or dealing with an adjustment to life circumstances, or it's something more. And in general, we use those D's as kind of a guideline. If things are affecting somebody's life, if they're struggling, if they're experiencing distress, then maybe we start to look at it being a mental illness. Barbara's probably my favorite, and a lot of you commented that Barbara probably just has like severe PMS, that a lot of her stuff is very centered around her menstrual cycle. So Barbara, you could debate, but I would lean toward doesn't have a disorder and that it's most likely a little bit more hormonal, though it could escalate. There is a disorder called PMDD where people have very severe menstrual cycles and it can cause some of these issues. But Barbara, for the most part, seems to be, I would lean toward probably doesn't have a disorder. Diane gets a little bit trickier. And again, with any situation, you have to ask yourself, what would a reasonable response be? And if you had these things happen to you, right, that your partner was cheating on you, and that you're struggling with some of these things where like, your grades are suffering and you're having, things aren't kind of matching up to the way that you want them to be, what would a normal, typical response look like? And I think that the way that she is reacting is really normal given the circumstances that she has. When something bad happens to us, it's completely normal for us to react to it. It would actually be somewhat abnormal if we didn't react at all. So I tend to lean toward Diane not having a disorder because she's just reacting to life circumstances. Now, if it continues for a very long time and it continues to affect her life, and she's not finding ways to start slowly moving forward, then maybe we could change our mind. And that's where that 50 of duration, I think, comes into play. Eric, Eric has a similar situation, right? He has a situation where he lost his legs. As you could imagine, if something like that happened, you would be very upset. It would change the way you view yourself. It would maybe make you have second thoughts about, your ability to live and to function. What tips me a little bit is that Eric is talking about his life not being worth living, that he would like to end it all. Now, suicidality isn't a disorder, but it can definitely be a big red flag. And so I think the fact that Eric is suicidal and given the severity of the event that happened to him, I might lean toward he's on the path to a disorder. There's something called adjustment disorder where people suffer like an event in their life and it causes them difficulty with depression and anxiety as they're trying to cope. And so Eric, I'm a little bit more worried about than Diane because of that suicidal piece that is to it. And bottom line, as long as you supported your argument, I was just looking for you again to see that it isn't always black and white, that it can be a little bit difficult to tell if somebody's just a little odd and eccentric or has a disorder, if someone's struggling or if it's more than that. And so just something to kind of keep in mind as we move through the semester. So I don't know, any other comments or thoughts or anything about any of these four individuals before we move forward? Does anybody have any other thoughts or comments or anything? You can put them in the chat if you do. Okay, wait just a minute here. I'm going to close this, and we'll go back to this page. But if you have any thoughts, feel free to put them in there. Otherwise, a lot of you came up with great stereotypes and associations, things that come to your mind when you think about therapy. The first thing I always think of is, how does that make you feel? How do you feel about that? And things like that. I picture a couch, and a lot of you had the same stereotype. Somebody nodding like a bobblehead or taking notes. Lots and lots of stereotypes of therapy, therapists, people who go to therapy. But for the most part, as I said, most of you did a wonderful job. If you lost points, the biggest reasons that people lost points, and I'm sharing this with you just so you know how to make sure that you get full points moving forward, is that people didn't answer the questions fully. A few people missed question 3, where they answered all of the disorder or not a disorder ones, but skipped number 3. A few of you just not quite enough detail, not supporting your decisions well enough. And then a couple of you forgot to respond to a classmate. So remember that when you are ready, you reply to my questions, and then you're also going to want to reply to a classmate. See how all these people replied to Amanda's post, or here's Helen's post, and a couple people replied to that. So in addition to replying to my questions, make sure that you're always replying to a classmate. It's only worth 2 points, but those 2 points will add up over time, and you don't want to be missing out on them. You want to get all of your points possible. So mostly really, really nicely done. There were a lot of like 13, 14, 15 points on this. Every single week, what I will be doing is I'm grading your discussions with a rubric. So you will get points assigned to you with the rubric, and you can see those scores. And then on top of that, I'll typically leave a comment, right? If you got full points, it might be something short like great or excellent, nicely done. If you missed points, it'll be, I would like you to elaborate a little bit more, or maybe you missed this question or something to that effect. So make sure that you're always looking at your grades so that you can understand what you got wrong and how you could get full points next time. And if you ever want more individual feedback, you can always email me, and I'd be happy to give you a little bit more. So I want to point something out. If you're under the modules, just where all the documents are listed, a couple of you asked me, how can I find my grades and my feedback? And I made a little page right here, finding your grades and feedback, and I put it in the announcement that went out yesterday as well. So I made a little video on here telling you how to find your grades, what the rubric looks like. So if you weren't able to find your grades and your feedback, you're definitely going to want to watch this. It's pretty brief. It's about 2 minutes long, but I showed you where you can find your grades and feedback that I give you every week. And again, you should be tracking your grade as we go through the semester. And if anything's ever wrong or missing, or you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you a little bit more about it. So that's where you can find your grades and feedback. There's a little video that I made for you. Your grades is always right here on the left side. So you can always click on that grades tab and see what your scores are. A lot of you did a wonderful job on the mandatory orientation quiz. Most of you got 9 or 10 points on that. Very nicely done. Thank you for all of you who did the extra credit introductions. A lot of you posted pictures, which I think is fantastic. A lot of pictures of your pets, which I thought was really cute. So thank you for those of you who did that, and helps us to get to know you a little bit better and get to know each other when we're in this virtual format. So everything from last week has been graded at this point, and what you'll typically see is that Monday night, I will be grading all of your work and then sending out an email with some general comments and some reminders for that next week. So that went out last night. I graded everything and sent that out to you, and you can typically expect that. Obviously if something is different, I'll let you know, but for the most part, I will be grading things Monday night and sending out that feedback email Monday night before we move on to week number 2. A lot of you also did the extra credit, which is fantastic. Remember that I posted the recording underneath, and a couple of people watched the wrong recording. I do have 7 classes that I'm teaching, and I do a Twitch session for each one, and they're all a little bit different. So make sure that you're always watching the correct recording of our class. And so to help you with that, I did post it right here. So if you click on the recording, I tried to post these on YouTube, because I figured that'd be easier for you to watch from anywhere, or like from your phone, from any kind of piece of technology. So make sure that if you do miss this, or you maybe miss part of it, that you go back and you can watch the recording afterward. So I think that's everything from last week. Are there any, I'm going to put this in here, any questions or thoughts or comments, anything at all about last week before we move on to week number 2? Any thoughts, questions, comments, anything related to anything from week number 1 before we move forward? I'll wait just a minute because you're usually about 30 seconds or 20 seconds or so behind me. So I'll wait just a second. If you think of anything, of course, feel free to put it in the chat. I know it's early in the morning, but I would love your comments or thoughts or questions or anything if you do have them, since I can't see all of you, right? And maybe that will change in the coming weeks, but for now, again, if you have any thoughts, feel free to put them in there. Otherwise, we move on to week number 2 as of yesterday morning. So Monday morning, week number 2 opened up. This week, we're moving on to talk about the models of abnormality. So remember, for this week, you're going to want to read chapter 2 in the textbook. The textbook is a really great way for you to get like the bulk of that background and information. I think the Comer book is a really fantastic book. So I hope that you're finding it interesting and engaging. It's definitely, I think, a really good textbook. So make sure you read chapter 2 in the book, and then you're going to want to watch the lecture video. Oh, my cat, right? I get so excited when my cats come around. So this week, I made a lecture video for you. So if you click on that link, it will take you to the video for it. And again, typically it is a Zoom link. So here you can watch it. I did embed it right here, or you can click on it here. It's about 34 minutes long. And whenever you're watching these lecture videos, again, you're going to want to take notes. The materials on these will definitely appear on the exams, so take notes, pay attention, follow along. If you wanted the PowerPoint slides, remember that they're right here above it, and so that's there for you. I also posted some videos that I would like you to watch this week, and I posted them separately just to make it easier. But each one of these videos, I think they're really, really interesting. We're talking about different models of abnormality. And there was a series that was made way back in like the 50s or 60s, showing different therapists working with a woman named Gloria, who volunteered to do therapy with them. And so I want you to watch 2 of them, and they're broken into 2 parts. So Gloria first works with Carl Rogers, and part 1 is him explaining his therapy, and then part 2 is a few minutes of him doing his type of therapy with Gloria. And then you'll watch the second part, which is Fritz Perls explaining how he does therapy, and then Fritz Perls working with Gloria. And I don't know if any of you have watched these yet, but they're very, very different perspectives. And you can laugh. Perls is like smoking a cigarette at a very different time. Very, very thick accent. But Rogers is a very non-directional therapist, right? So he didn't believe in guiding his patients or his clients. Versus Perls is a little bit antagonistic. He points out every little thing. Gloria gets mad at him. So both of these are really great videos showing you different takes on how therapy could go. And just something fun to think about, and maybe I'll ask you next week once you've watched these. But if you had to pick one, which one would you rather do? They're very, very different takes on therapy. So make sure that you watch these videos. That will add to your knowledge gained from the lecture as well. The other thing for this week, of course, like every week, so you have the chapter and the videos and the lecture, and then you have discussion number 2. So if we click on that, discussion number 2, like always, you have the instructions up here at the top, right? So make sure that you watch my little video where I go through and kind of highlight the instructions. Don't forget to read at least 5 of your classmates' posts, to respond to one of them. But what I gave you here is a little case study about a young man named Mark. And I gave you some details and information about Mark, but it's only 3 paragraphs. It's still pretty brief. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to read through this, and then how would you explain Mark's behavior and pathology from each of the following perspectives? So all 6 of the major perspectives that I cover in the lecture and that the textbook covers, I want you to think of key concepts and ideas from each perspective and use them to explain Mark's behavior. You're welcome to use a little bit of speculation. You don't have a ton of information, so if you want to kind of speculate a little bit, that's totally fine. But you want to make sure that you're referencing key concepts from the book and the lecture in order to receive full credit. So when you're ready to do this, you'll hit reply, and that will allow you to respond to my questions. And then don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those 2 points of peer response credit. So that's your discussion for this week, looking at can you apply those different models that we've talked about, all 6 of them. And again, you're looking for any key concepts or ideas that you can connect to the case study from each of those different models. So I look forward to reading what you come up with about Mark. And those are the like big things to do for this week, right? Read the chapter, watch the lecture video and the therapy styles videos that I gave to you, and then complete discussion number 2. I'll talk about this here in a moment. And of course, when we're done today, I will post a recording of this live stream. It sometimes takes a couple of hours, like I mentioned before, for me to download it and upload it. But I will post the recording here if you want to go back and watch it later, or if maybe you missed part of this, or you had to leave early or came late or whatnot. But a couple of announcements and reminders. And so I typed this up earlier. I'm going to put it in the chat. Only a handful of you subscribed to me on Twitch, and that's okay. If again, I don't want you to ever pay for it. If you couldn't figure it out, that's all right. But a couple of you did send me an email asking me to show you how to do this, and a couple of you were really confused. I know that it's kind of a pain, but if you can figure it out once, it does make it remarkably easier from there. And if I scroll up, if you look at the chat, there are a few of you, for example, Kyle, you have the little Twitch icon, but not the cake next to your name. Same with Bill. If you don't have the little hamburger, it's a football cake. It looks like a hamburger. If you don't have the little football cake next to your name, that means that you didn't do the last step. And so again, the only reason I keep mentioning this is I know ads are really frustrating. And as I mentioned, it saves me so much time. And I really appreciate anything that you do to make my life easier. So thank you for that. So let me show you really quickly that last step for a few of you who were confused. I cannot show you on my channel. So what I'm going to do, let's go to my close friends are big Twitch streamers. So I'm going to go to their channel so I can show you, because I can't show you on my own. So these are my buddies here. They're big streamers on here, though they've kind of moved over a little bit more to YouTube, I think. But when you're on my channel, so pretend this is me for a minute. Obviously it's not. There's this button right here. And this is where I think a few of you got confused. If you click on this purple button, click on the little down arrow, all the way down at the bottom, and they put this all the way down at the bottom, and I think it's because it's free, and so they make it tricky for you. I'm sorry about that. But if you click on this here, it says use Prime Sub. So if you were to click this, it would charge you. Please don't pay for this. I really don't want you to pay for this. And that's great that you don't have ads. There's always one at the beginning, but as I said, it makes my life way easier. Then I can download a list of those of you who are here, but I'm glad it's not interfering. That's good to hear. But you click on this little button right here that says use Prime Sub and see how it makes it free all of a sudden. And a few of you, I think, skipped this step or just didn't see this. So all the way down, I'm going to go back one more time here. When you're on my channel, on the Psyched with Setmire channel, go to this purple bar, click on the down arrow, right? And then you can click down here at the bottom, use Prime Sub, and then hit subscribe for free with Prime. And it's only good for 30 days, but that definitely is great. And then you can renew it in 30 days. I'll remind you every week. But if you have a chance to do that, I would really appreciate it. Again, that makes my life way easier, and hopefully it makes your experience smoother as well. So please take a moment to figure that out today if you can. I also posted some videos on how to do that. The other thing I want to remind you is our next Twitch live stream. I can't type and talk. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Tuesday next week. Next Tuesday is the 25th. So Tuesday 1/25 at 8:30 in the morning like usual. And I know it's early, but this was our normal time that we were going to be meeting in person. So our next Twitch live stream will be on Tuesday 1/25 at 8:30. And again, thankfully everything cooperated. Sorry that last week we had to do that one on Thursday instead. So the last thing I want to give you the extra credit question, and then be thinking if you have any questions for me, whether that's about the content or the organization or anything like that related to the class. So let me give you that extra credit question, and I wrote it down up here already to save myself. So the extra credit question for week number 2, okay, is what is a model and why are they important? And this is the big focus of this week. We're talking about these different models or lenses. So your question for this week is, what is a model and why are they important? And when you're ready to answer that, you'll head over to Canvas, which is here. And then you'll click on, because we're in week 2, you'll click on Twitch Extra Credit number 2. Go into student view so I can show you properly. And then when you click on that, there'll be some instructions. Remember, if you haven't already, make sure you put your first and last name in the chat. Unless you have the football cake next to your name, then you don't need to worry about that because I have a list of your names when we're done. At the top, hit Start Assignment, and then you can type your response right here in the box. And when you're done, hit Submit. Confetti burst. Yeah, and then these are due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., though I grade them throughout the week. So if you turn it in early and get it wrong, I will let you know, and you can always try again. A few people answered the wrong question last week. Again, make sure that you're always watching the right stream. At the top of the stream, it tells you the title, and I always name it the class title. Or just make sure that you're watching the recording that I'll post right here on our Canvas page. So as soon as we're done today, I will post a recording on here within a couple of hours. And so if you want to access it later, that's where you'll be able to find it. But big things for this week, read chapter 2, watch the lecture video, watch the therapy styles video. I'll be curious to hear what you think, that sounded wrong in my head. I'll be curious to see what you think next week and see which one of the 2 approaches you would prefer, if one at all. Do the discussion, do the optional extra credit if you would like to. And please, again, if you have the chance, take a moment to finalize those subscriptions on Twitch or go back and figure it out. If you go back up here, the instructions are right here. And there's also a video on here, as I said, that I think is really helpful. It's here's all the step-by-step instructions and then the video at the bottom. I'm definitely a video person, so I find that helpful. And so I posted that for you as well. But I think that's everything. It's about a half hour of time, and then I have the next like 10 minutes or so that I will hang out if any of you have any questions or thoughts or comments for me. Otherwise, review your grade from last week. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If you need any help, I am here. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful and fantastic week. The rest of the week is yours to get going and work on all these other required materials that we have going on. That is kind of the end of our official time. If you have any questions, I will hang out for the next like 10 minutes or so. Otherwise, you're welcome to take off and have a wonderful week, a wonderful day, and yeah, take care of yourselves. And again, if I hear anything, I will definitely send you all a message and let you know. So thank you all for being on here with me. I know it's not the same, but I really appreciate your company and your comments if you have them. If you'd like to talk to me on Zoom or set up a time for us to meet, yeah, definitely send me an email and we can always set something up since we're not on campus officially. If you would like to ever meet with me, that's totally fine. Just send me an email and we can figure something out. Thank you. I hope you all have a nice week too. I sounded a little better today, right? Not I'm feeling definitely healthier than last week, so hopefully a little less smoky and gravelly this week. But yeah, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week. I'm gonna minimize my video, but if you do have any questions, I'm still here and I would be happy to answer them for you. So take care, and I will see you all next Tuesday morning. Though if you have any questions, again, I'll hang out for a little bit and I'd be happy to answer them. And I am still here, just as a quick reminder, if you do have any questions, I'm here. And if you think of something later, of course, feel free to email me. Okay, great. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, send me an email if you if you have any questions, and make sure that you get going on all the materials for this week. But yeah, if you have any questions specifically, you can always send me an email. That's totally fine. All right, everyone, it looks like almost everyone has logged out. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up so that I can start downloading it to post the recording. But if you have any questions, of course, feel free to email me. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all next Tuesday morning.